What's up guys, Cali Sunset Gaming with you again, and today, wow, have I got a show for you. A team dripping with talent and formation for you guys to emulate in your career mode and online seasons. As always, I'm going to be showing you guys the formation, the tactics and the individual instructions for you to be able to give to your players so that you can use it and dominate the opposition. Let's get to it. So, Ancelotti's 06-07 Milan team. Now let me give you a bit of history. The 06-07 season didn't start off well for Milan. Due to a ruling from the previous season, Milan started the campaign on -8 points. This allowed Ancelotti to concentrate on the Champions League, a trophy he had won with Milan back in 2003. Ancelotti's Milan team as a whole were insanely successful, winning 2 Champions Leagues, a Serie A title, a Club World Cup, as well as other trophies as well. Now before I go any further, make sure that you smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and also hit that notification bell. When you think of Ancelotti, you think of a manager who is fantastic at man management, and a coach who tactically is very fluid, constantly adapting elements of his tactics to utilise his star players. The team was based on a central midfield dominance. The team originally started with a midfield diamond, but in this video we're going to be focusing on the famous Christmas tree formation, or 4-3-2-1 formation as it's better known. Now before I go any further, as always I will put in a disclaimer, and that is if you're playing as the current Milan side, you're going to be hard pressed to emulate the formation as you don't have the players that Milan did in the 06-07 season. That said, these videos are to help you emulate the style, not copy the team's lineup specifically. But make sure you stick around because I will be telling you the type of players that you want to be purchasing to best fit this formation. Now, back to the tactics. The midfield aspect of this team is the most important. Now, if you think about the team they had, you assume that Pirlo actually just sat deep, but that is a common misconception based off his role when he was at loan at Inter when he was younger, and also his role as he got older. The truth is that a midfield of Seedorf, Gattuso and Ambrosini and Kaká as well as Pirlo involved a lot of rotation as the players were capable in the defensive and the attacking third, something that is actually quite hard to replicate on FIFA as the management panel isn't as in-depth enough to allow it. Both the left back and right back were relied upon to create width, and if you think of Cafu, world-class right back, and Jankulovski as left back, who doesn't get brought up enough in conversations because he was a bit part in a star-studded team. But wow, what a fucking fantastic player. The reason it was so important for wing-backs to provide width is so that Milan could ensure Seedorf and Kaká remained central, ensuring the team's midfield dominance in the centre of the park, to avoid the team slipping into a 4-3-3. That said, the formation actually has a major flaw when using it on FIFA, and that is the lack of width. This is something that you're going to have to pay attention to, as nearly every team that you go against will be trying to use the flanks to try and exploit you. Ideally, you want a left back and right back that are able to have the legs to get up and down the pitch for 90 minutes. Okay, now let's move on to the formation screen and get into the nitty gritty on how you can set your team up just like the 07 Milan. I'll be giving you guys instructions as well as the tactics and the roles that you need to give to each of these players.
Okay guys, we're onto the formation screen, and this is the 4-3-2-1 formation in action. Now, the 4-3-2-1 formation that we have here currently is one that I have edited. So, if you actually go onto the formation screen, there is a 4-3-2-1 formation that you can use that's a preset on FIFA, and I'll quickly scroll down and show you guys what it looks like here. So, 2 centre forwards and 3 central midfielders. Now, the reason that I haven't copied this verbatim is just down to the fact that Ancelotti actually had Kaká and Seedorf as central attacking midfielders rather than centre forwards. So that's the slight adjustment that I've made. You'll notice when I flick back to this, you'll notice that what I've done is I've actually bring the central midfield players slightly down. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to manually adjust this, and the best way for me to advise you to do this is to drag the centre midfielders back but ensure that they stay as central midfielders. When you can do the you can press square or X if you're on Xbox and manually adjust the formation by bringing the players back. Just drag the central midfielder in the middle back a little bit, just so he's not as a central defensive midfielder, sticking as that CM, and then the 2 out wide, so the central midfielder on the left and the right, bring them in as well. And then in turn, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to drag the centre forwards back and turn them into central attacking midfielders, completely matching the formation that Ancelotti had with the Milan team in 06-07. Now we move on to the tactics. So for defensive style, you want to keep it unbalanced. I mentioned in the intro and when I was given the brief history of AC Milan in the 06-07 season, that there was a lot of fluidity to the formation. It's difficult to accurately emulate the formation specifically, but I feel, given the different styles of play that you can have, balanced is the best mix. Remember, you're going to have a lot of players in the centre of the park. Balanced allows you to maintain a sort of neutral shape, and obviously you're going to be winning the ball back in the midfield area quite a lot, which is what you want to aim for. The width, we've got that set at 5, and the depth, we've got that all the way down to 3. The reason for this is because what we want to do is ensure that you're not being caught with long balls over the top too much. Remember, you're going to have those 2 centre-backs, and the wide players are going to be obviously incredibly attacking. As a result, they're going to have to cover a lot of area on those wide areas of the pitch. As a result, it's really important that you make sure that you have a naturally deep line, so that you can ensure that the defenders always know that that is the primary and central position for them to be. And when you're not attacking, they can just sort of float back into that deep position and avoid you having to deal with long balls over the top, which, if you play a lot of FIFA, you'll know is the sort of go-to approach for most of the opposition teams that you will play against if they're playing a 4-3-3. Now, onto the offensive style. Again, we're going to keep it unbalanced. I've tried a different set of styles with this. I know, obviously, you've got things like long ball. Pirlo was renowned for just sort of dishing those long balls over the top. Whilst it's great, at the same time, that's not the single way that AC Milan played. It wasn't a pure long ball approach over the top. It was just Pirlo's desired style of play, because he was able to pick out a pass onto a 50-pence piece from about 200 miles. Balanced is the best way to keep it fluid. Multiple styles of passing. You don't want short passing consistently. You don't want possession build up. It doesn't really emulate the style very well. You've got the width as 6. The reason for that is, obviously, there's going to be a lot of players in the centre of the pitch, but 6 is the perfect balance between making sure that you dominate the centre of the park while also having the players spread out enough to be able to ensure that you have multiple passing options. And obviously, you've always got those wide players, the left back and the right back, in a position to be able to bomb forward and then in turn get those crosses into the box. For things like players in the box, corners and free kicks, I've got these quite high, but as always, one thing I will always say about these videos, it is down to your personal preference. In terms of players in the box, corners and free kicks, it's all about how comfortable you feel defending on the game. If it's something that you're not too comfortable with, make sure that you sort of step back a little bit in terms of the amount of players that you're going to have in the box, because the more players that you have in the box, yes, it gives you the opportunity to score more goals, but the downside is that you are more susceptible to counter-attacks, depending on the team that you are managing or the team that you are using in online seasons. If you've got the ability to be able to quell that counter-attack with fast players in your midfield area, then obviously go for it. If you're a lower league side, it's maybe not something that I would take a massive risk in, just because over time, if you're getting a lot of set pieces throughout the course of a game, it's going to create a lot of fatigue in the midfield area. Now let's move on to the instructions. For the keeper, we're going on balanced for saving on crosses and also balanced on saving outside of the box. For the centre-backs, we're going for both at stay back while attacking and normal interceptions. Left back and right back, they're going to be the same. Join attack for the attacking runs, interceptions down as normal. The run type, we want it as overlap. We want them to make sure that they dominate the wide areas of the pitch. The centre's taken care of, so it's really important that you make sure that they're on the overlap rather than sort of like undercutting the midfield players. You want them to make sure that they stay out wide, and when the opportunity arises, getting those balls into the box. The midfield area is obviously where you really begin to cut your teeth in terms of the specifics of the instructions. So for the central defensive midfielder, the guy who's the deepest out of that midfield trio, emulating the Pirlo role, you want his attacking support as balanced. You want his support on crosses as balanced as well. Normal interceptions, you want him covering the centre, and his positioning freedom down as stick to position. For your left central midfielder, emulating Gattuso, you want his attacking support as get forward, the support on crosses as balanced, normal interceptions, stick to position, and the defensive position as cover the wing. For your right-sided midfielder, you want attacking support as balanced, support on crosses as balanced, normal interceptions, stick to position, and defensive position as cover wing. Moving on to Hazard in my team, I've got Thorgan Hazard. I've purchased him, pretty much spent all of my budget getting hold of him, but he's emulating that Seedorf role. Defensive support has come back on defence. Support on crosses as balanced. Obviously, this is going to feed really well into the fact that essentially you've got Benassa and Hazard interchanging in terms of who's defending and who's attacking. Just sort of mix it up, gives the defender something to think about with the consistent changing. Like I said, it's difficult to emulate the specifics in terms of the fluidity in midfield of Ancelotti's team just because the FIFA settings aren't as in-depth. But this is a good way to copy that as close as possible. Moving on to the support on crosses, you want that balanced. You want his positioning freedom as stick to position and his interceptions as normal. Çalhanoğlu now emulating Kaka, well, to the best of his ability anyway. Basic defensive support for him. Kaka was obviously fantastic when he got the ball in the midfield area, and moving forward, absolute genius on the ball, always making defenders second guess him. Obviously, it's impossible for Çalhanoğlu to completely emulate him, but depending on the team that you are, like I said before, this isn't about getting players that directly represent the players that Ancelotti had at that time. It's more about just emulating the formation specifically. So, like I said, basic defensive support for him, balanced on support on crosses, stick to position on position freedom, and interceptions down as normal. Now, before I move on to the striker, a lot of you are probably thinking, if you want a lot of fluidity in the midfield, you can just quickly change them all to free roam when it comes to the positioning freedom. What I will say is, even though there was a lot of fluidity in the midfield, each of them understood their roles. The difficulty with positioning freedom on FIFA is that it can often lead to scenarios where you're being caught on the counter-attack and players aren't dropping back into natural positions, and as a result you'll have players clogging up one side of the pitch or players sticking too far forward, not enough players getting forward when you're on the attack, and it just makes it a lot more difficult. So whilst there is a lot of fluidity in Ancelotti's team, we need to make sure that whilst we're playing it on FIFA, we need to keep that essential framework in place so that even though the players are emulating the style, at the same time you're not going to be caught out when you are playing online seasons or in your career mode. Moving on to the striker, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is stepping in for Inzaghi. We've got support runs on balanced, we've got attacking runs on mixed. Usually I would tend to lean more towards running in behind. If you think of Inzaghi, the lad was born offside, as Sir Alex Ferguson famously said. But mixed attack is the best way to emulate this, I think. Obviously, like I said, a lot of options when you're going forward with this formation. Attacking runs on mixed just allows the striker to be able to accommodate for whatever situation's going forward. If you're trying to hold on to the ball in the midfield area, what you don't particularly want is your striker just trying consistently to hang off the shoulder of that last man. Sometimes you might want him to drop deep. So as a result, having it on mixed attack is the best middle ground to emulate that style. The interceptions you want on normal, and basic defensive support for the defensive support setting as well. So before I go, I did mention to you guys that I was going to give you an outline of the sort of players that you want to be purchasing to help you emulate this style to the best of your ability. Now, obviously it's not something you're going to be able to do in seasons, but in career mode, what I would suggest is ensuring that you have pacey left backs and right backs in your future, because at this current time, you've got Theo Hernandez if you're playing as Milan, which is absolutely fantastic. But if you're playing as another team, it's definitely something that you need to think about. You want to make sure that you have those pacey wing backs to be able to ensure that you're getting up and down the pitch as much as possible, feeding those crosses into the box for your attackers to get on the end of. On top of that, they're also going to be another option, just a player that's sort of sat out wide,
Majority of the time you're going to be going centrally, but it's always good to have that option out wide if you do need to try and stretch the play. In terms of your central attacking midfielders, you want to make sure they're as technical on the ball as possible. You want to make sure that they have great passing and also great attacking awareness too. So that is always something to think about. In terms of the central midfield trio, you want to make sure that you've got players that have got high passing stats. You want to make sure you're in a position where you've got the ability to feed quick 1-2 passes, and also ensure that you're in a position where, if needs be, you can feed those long passes over the top if the opportunity arises. So there you have it, guys, just an indication of the type of players that you want to get a hold of if you are going to try and emulate this formation. And that is the end of this video. I appreciate you guys checking out. Thank you for watching my content. I really appreciate it. We're on that freight train to 1,000 subs, baby. Thank you guys for checking out the video. I really appreciate your guys' support. If you did enjoy this, like I said previously, do not forget to smash a like on the video and consider subscribing if you like FIFA content such as career modes and also tactical videos to be able to get you to set up in the best possible way if you're playing online seasons or career mode. If you've got any other suggestions on possible formations that you want me to analyze so that I could create the style for you to be able to play on your online seasons and career mode, make sure you leave it in the comment section below. I make sure that I read all of my comments that are left, and I always try and interact with you guys. So hopefully together, if there's any sort of formation that you want to be able to emulate, make sure you drop me a line and I'll do my best to copy it. You guys have been awesome, and I will see you next time on Cali Sunset Gaming.